Several extreme heat waves this summer. Europe is facing another consequence of a warming climate. Rivers across the continent are drying up and it's creating massive problems for several industries. Deutsche Welle correspondent Lars Halter joins us now from Berlin. Lars, g'day. So what's the latest on the water levels?
Well, unfortunately, the latest is that things are just getting worse. We've seen low water levels in some of Europe's biggest and most important rivers for a few weeks now. But as we're dealing with heat wave after heat wave, and as we haven't really had any major rainfall at all, the rivers are really just drying up at a pace we haven't seen in previous years. Because we've obviously had droughts here before, and a dry spell at least. We've had low levels of water in rivers, and sometimes we've had way too low levels. However, that usually came around the end of summer, maybe towards fall. And this year, we're seeing rivers drop to absolutely critical levels, and in many cases below these levels, even way too early. Two of the most watched levels, as a matter of fact, are the River Rhine in Cologne, where they've just seen a historic low. And it's the same in Duisburg, at the heart of coal and steel country, where the level was taken in the Ruhr River, also at a record low, just before it flows into the Rhine.
And what's the impact so far on the economy?
Well, the low water levels really impact a whole lot of industries. As a matter of fact, I just ran into a colleague here at work who told me he wants to take a river cruise up the Rhine in a few weeks. And as he told me, we both knew that that trip likely is not happening after all. So tourism here is definitely affected by the drought. But that is, of course, far from the worst consequences we're seeing. More important than tourism is, of course, shipping and logistics. Among the commodities transported on the Rhine in particular are building materials, stone and earth, ores, coal, as well as also liquid petroleum products and chemicals. And they're currently going on barges that can often carry only half their usual load. So transport costs are already rising due to the distribution of cargo then across multiple vessels. And then there's energy. France had to shut down 3 nuclear power plants almost a month ago already because the adjacent river didn't provide enough water for cooling. And now power plants in Romania and in Hungary were also shut down for the same reason. In Hungary in particular, the plant we're talking about provides about 1/3 of the country's energy supply.
And what are governments doing to address the situation?
Well, right now they're putting together a task force to deal with all the problems the industry has, including providing additional port storage capacity for hazardous goods, extra rail capacity for alternative shipping. That, as it's pretty clear, they can't currently solve the problem, but only really deal with it. Other than that, there's a broad understanding that not all too much can actually be done because we're dealing with a long-term effect of climate change. Now, here's the gist of it. Climate change has not only led to hotter days with more water evaporating from rivers, but also to melting glaciers in the Alps and in other mountain ranges, which again leads to less water being stored there to melt away in spring and then fill up the rivers going north later in the year. So as the planet heats up, we'll likely see more droughts and experience more problems rather than fewer, and there aren't any short-term solutions available.
Okay, Lars Halter there in Berlin.